atoms into chemical particles never before seen. At last year's Institute of Food Technologists and International Conference, nanotechnology was a topic that generated the most buzz amongst the 14,000 food scientists, chefs and manufacturers crammed into an Anaheim, California hall. Though it's a word that's probably never been printed on any menu and probably never will, there was so much interest in the potential uses of nanotechnology for food that a separate day-long session focused just on that subject was packed to the overflowing. In one corner of the convention center, a chemist, a flavorist, and 2 food marketing specialists clustered around a large chart of the periodic table of elements. So you have to think back to your high school class in science. The food chemist from China ran her hands over the chart, pausing at different chemicals just long enough to see how a nanoized version of each would improve existing flavors or create new ones. One of the marketing guys questioned what would happen if the consumer found out. The flavorist asked whether the Food and Drug Administration would even allow nano ingredients. Posed a variation of the latter question, Dr. Jesse Goodman, the agency's chief scientist and deputy commissioner for science and public health, gave a revealing answer. He said he wasn't involved enough with how the FDA was handling nanomaterials in food to discuss that issue. Well, actually, I'll put another link up too to show you that the FDA aren't even looking into it. They're way behind it, and stuff is already being put in your food. So there's 2 articles I have on that to come up. Then I'm going to mention Mr. Pachauri, the wonderful guy from India, after this break. Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt. We're cutting through the matrix, and we've all heard of Mr. Pachauri, the guy who writes porno novels at the IPCC, and I've read the articles from the mainstream. Well, he's involved in a company, Tata, it's called Tata. They own Jaguar, Land Rover and Tetley Tea, and if they get hundreds of millions of pounds in green subsidies to build one of the world's biggest coal-fired power stations, and they're shutting them down in Britain and elsewhere, but they're building them in China, so they're getting subsidies to do this. Tata will receive huge sums from the West for building the power station in India, thanks to the carbon trading system established by the Kyoto Treaty. Critics say the system makes a mockery of attempts to combat climate change. When the plant near Port of Mundra in Gujarat becomes operational in 2011, it'll emit 25.7 tons of carbon dioxide a year, more CO2 than any power station in Britain, yet it'll be classed by the United Nations as a source of clean power. That means Tata will be able to sell surplus carbon credits established under the Kyoto Treaty to firms in the West. Energy groups will be able to buy the credits as an alternative to reducing CO2 emissions. But you have to go to Mr. Pachauri because, you see, he's also involved as CEO of a subsidiary of Tata. They're all in it together. They're all filling their pockets with the laws that they themselves push through. All these psychopaths, doing very well for themselves, mind you, under this con game of carbon credits. Now, briefly, I'll go to, I think is it Kevin in North Bay?
Yep, that's me.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. Just about graduating radio school. I'm almost done here. And, one thing I want to ask you, Alan, what do you think is probably one of the best solutions to really fight off this New World Order system?
Well, that's a question which you've been asking 50 years ago. because it's taken years of secret negotiations between governments, ever since the United Nations was set up, in fact, with many departments attached to it, all to bring in this New World Order. The overseas economic departments for investment, all these companies working together, private organizations working with governments, to bring all this in, working with your immigration policies, all of this stuff. And to be honest with you, we're 50 years. Whenever we start talking about something, it's almost 50 years too late, you know.
Yeah. What do you think of Max Egan's idea of non-compliance on a mass scale? You know, very quickly before the show ends, you know, this whole New World Order system, it thrives on people paying the price for their own slavery through the tax system and through the money system. Yeah. And I think that if you stop feeding the beast, you kill it. You know.
Yeah. The problem is we've never ever had enough of the public getting together and going along, you'll always find the majority of them don't want to stand up above the trenches and get their heads seen. They'd rather go along and mind you, they'll take the benefits of a small minority, do it and suffer and win. But the majority will still go along. And again, you have a class system where the more wealthy to do will not join in. They're okay with their jobs. They'll go along to their jobs, and everyone else will stay off work. But I know the idea. Technically, we have the ability, absolutely, to stop things in their track by non-compliance.
Yeah, and I think, I do think that a massive boycott, while the internet is still running strong, mm-hmm. I think that'd be the best means to do it, and I think it can be done. You'd be surprised how many people really are awake out there. They're awake,
but what they need is a philosophy, a common philosophy, and where they would take it after they'd won. None of that exists right now, you see. That's the problem.
Well, I hear the music, and just to let you know, Gandhi did it, and I think it can be done again.
It certainly can be done, but it's up to us. But generally when our backs are against the wall, unfortunately. From myself in Hamish in Ontario, Canada, it's good night, and may your God or your gods go with you.